Word up.
Yo, Longhairs. Welcome to episode 116 of Let It Ride. Here we talk long hair and business, advocate for hair equality, and celebrate men's long manes with hair whips and high fives. If you're a guy with long hair, you're in the right place. I'm El Rubio, co-founder and CEO of the Longhairs. To my right, co-hosting with our creative director is El Elefante. With us here at the Longhairs Global Headquarters is our guest on today's episode. He is a corporate facilitator, a keynote speaker, certified coach, and self-proclaimed strategic play consultant who helps professionals level up their confidence, creativity, and happiness, all through the power of play. Gary shows us how play positively affects us in the workplace, optimizing team engagement and morale, and helping maximize workplace success. But it's not all business, as Gary highlights the importance of play in our personal lives as well, offering rest, rejuvenation, and enjoyment in life, admonishing us to reconnect and stay connected with our childlike wonder and imagination. He is the founder and principal of Breakthrough Play, a San Diego consulting firm that helps people and organizations all around the world improve retention, reduce stress, raise sales, and have more fun playing. An improv comedian by night, soon to be by day perhaps, he is the author of Playful Rebellion, recently published to much critical acclaim and available wherever fine books are sold. He is with us. He is unscripted, and he is not playing around. About playing around. It's time to play ball with Gary Ware.
Oh my gosh. Can I just have you travel with me and deliver that? Like, I will pay you a little bit.
Absolutely. I think if the whole long hair thing doesn't work out, we have a calling in radio announcing.
There we go.
Gary, welcome to Let It Ride.
Thank you so much for having me. I know this is a lot in the making, and I'm glad we are here right now in this moment making this work.
Hey, it took a couple of reschedules,
Yes.
couple of pushbacks. You had some family news, and COVID kept on happening, but we're getting it done today.
We're done. Yes.
So we were introduced through our former, sadly, social media director, Chuck Cairncross, but you've known Elefante for some time as well. Just bring us up to speed on how you got acquainted with the Longhairs and what brought you here today.
Yeah. Well, one, I have long hair, so I've always watched from a distance. We're all San Diego based companies, so I love it. Me and Elefante, we go way back. The agency days of cutting our teeth like Mad Men, but not really. Being trapped in like the basement, forced to pump out digital ads.
A lot of connections and interwebs in the digital marketing space. El Moreno and I were in a marketing agency prior to the Longhairs, and that's how we got to know Elefante and Garvinsky. And as our circles continue crossing over the years, this happens a lot. We know someone of someone, and we're not that far out of the circle.
Yeah, especially, again, in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's such a small city, and yeah, you'll be surprised. It's like was it the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon sort of situation?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure we can pick someone in San Diego and then sort of backtrack and we're connected.
It's not even going to be 6. It's going to be about
it's
2
gonna
or
be like
3.
3.5.
Max.
The advertising world is so small here.
It is.
The San Diego in general is a relatively small big city, but then you drill down into the marketing advertising world, and everyone knows everybody.
Yeah, and everyone goes, like, they go from one agency to the other,
Yep.
to the other, to the other. It's like one of those, those abusive relationships. You're like, you know what, the next one's going to be better. You know what, the next one will be better. Then you get into it, and then you're like, oh, wow, it's the same.
It's not greener over here,
Yeah.
after all.
Yep.
So Playful Rebellion, congratulations.
Thank
Just
you.
published this year.
This year.
Tell us a little
I
bit
forgot
about
to
the
do
book.
this during the intro.
Look at this. Beautiful cover, beautiful artwork, illustrations. There's a lot to love here, having gone through it just before our show here. Tell us a little bit about the book and how you came to this concept and the publishing process.
Yeah. So this concept, I wanted to write a book that would teach the younger version of myself something that I wish I knew when I was younger. And the whole thing, a playful rebellion, like what's the deal? Well, one, I love Star Wars, so any sort of like nod to Star Wars, I'm in it. However, as you mentioned in the intro, most people like play what? That 4-letter word that starts with P, adults aren't having it. And it's just because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to work. And if we have a little bit of time, maybe we can play. Play is something that kids do. It's seen as a frivolous activity. And I learned firsthand, after burning myself out multiple times, that the anecdote is play. And if I can incorporate play intentionally on a day-to-day basis, I can rejuvenate myself. I can connect deeper. And so the reason why it's called the Playful Rebellion, as a way to reach and have those benefits, we need to rebel against the status quo. We got to rebel against our sort of way of being. And so that's sort of the book. And it's been a labor of love. It started out, to be honest, as a challenge, because a number of people said, Gary, I really wish I can incorporate play, but every time I try to get into it, other stuff happens, I work and stuff. And so I did a 30-day play challenge where I helped, people develop a habit. And then someone said, this would be great if it was a book. And I was like, interesting. I never really thought about writing a book. And then after like the fourth person said, hey, can this be a book? I was like, all right, I'll think about it. Writing a book, again, some people, I have all these books in me and I'm gonna be a published author. That was never my thought. However, I was like, this could be a book, but I don't want to do it the conventional route of let me lock myself in my office and crank out 5,000 words per day. Like that seems like torture. And for a book about play, like that's not very playful. So how I did it was I got an editor and we scheduled a Zoom call for 1 hour every week for 9 months, after we figured out what the structure was going to be and all that stuff. And then I would tell stories. We would pick the chapter. I would tell stories. She would ask me questions. And then after the call, and it's great because she didn't really know much about it. So she was very curious and she would ask me things and it would prompt me to think of other stuff. And then she would give me a challenge. She was like, all right, cool. This week, go and research these things and let's come back and talk about it. And so we essentially had a really fun Zoom date for 9 months. And so we transcribed all those things. And that was basically the rough draft, the first draft of the manuscript. And then we went through the editing process. And so that's how the book, got created. And then I talked to some people about publishing route or self-publishing. And then, based on my end objective is to, get this into people's hands as quickly as possible. And then again, since I'm a facilitator, I want to use this as, part of my work. People said, go the self-publishing route. And so, before we started, we were talking about some mutual people that we know, Chris Gillibo being another. He's written books on that. I have other friends who've done the self-publishing route. And so I just, got my hands dirty and figured it all out. And then 9 more months later, here we go.
Yeah. I'm curious, getting into a new thing like writing, coming from advertising, marketing, improv, comedy, how long did it take you from the time you started writing the book till you called yourself a writer or thought of yourself as a writer?
Great point. It took a while because I kept saying, I'm writing a book. And so someone said, you're an author. Well, I get maybe. So it was a good 3 or 4 months. It was a good 3 or 4 months and a good dozen people saying, so you're an author with a capital A. And I was like, fine, I'm an author. Yeah. There we go. And even now me saying it like that just sounds weird, but sure. The lesson that I hear over and over again, hey, if you have a story to tell, you're an author. You're writing, whether it is a, digital book, paperback book, hard, cover book, audio book, you're an author.
Yeah.
You're the author of your own story, as they say. So the concept behind the book, this whole notion of kind of rediscovering play and its value in all of our professional and personal lives, you said that you had taken an improv class where you kind of made that self-discovery. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the irony of this is that I didn't take the class to go and have fun. This was one of my first agency gigs. It was a company that since been acquired by company after company. It's called Cavario. I found myself as a director, and I had under me like a staff of like 20 or so, and then I wanted to get better at the craft, and presentations and speaking to clients was one of the requirements. And I took a Toastmasters class and I hated it. Yes, it's great framework of how to deliver a talk and whatnot, but it gave me so much anxiety because they're literally judging you. That talk, Gary, you had 16 ums. Did you notice that? You're blah, blah, blah. And so I needed something else. And a mentor of mine said, hey, have you thought about taking an improv class? And I was like, no, I'm not a comedian. What are you talking about? He said, no, I think it will help with public speaking and thinking on your feet. So I said, all right, cool, sign me up. And even better, my company paid for it, because we had $1,000 per employee per year that we can use for personal development. Most people went to conferences. I took an improv class. So I took this improv class expecting to sort of level up my ability to speak. And then to my shock, I got hooked because that first class, it was at a theater here in San Diego. There were about 15 other people just like me. No one was aspiring to be on SNL. Granted, we're in San Diego. We're not in LA. We're not in Chicago. We're not in New York. So these are just regular people that just wanted to take an improv class. And to my surprise, we played these weird games where we had to, sort of be silly and, sort of word association. And, they taught us these principles like to say yes and to realize that there are no mistakes. Everything's a gift. And for 2 hours, I was completely present. I was completely mesmerized. I was engaged. And it reminded me of recess. And after that first class, I went home and my wife thought I was drunk. I had not had anything to drink. High on life. High on life. And then that next day I was excited to go to work. Everything else was still the same. Clients were still the same. Everything else was the same. And that was the catalyst. That was the thing that was like, maybe there's something here. And then I just got hooked on improv and I started bringing games to my team. I started taking it to conferences and then I started performing, and that became like my play. And then I started saying, all right, because in improv we have this thing, if this is true, then what else is true? So I was like, if this is making me feel this good and I can shove off all of like stress and drama, like what else? And then I just started like diving into play, and then I started rediscovering the things that I used to do when I was a kid that I thought I had no time for.
When you started looking into this, sorry, I'll let you go. Did you look and see, is anyone else doing this? Is anyone else using play as their concept? Did you kind of start doing some research, and were there others doing it or not doing it like you're doing it?
Yeah. So naturally, once you start to, so this was a hobby at first. This and all the stuff I was learning was all in service of me being a better leader. However, when you start to say, oh yeah, I'm the play guy, I'm discovering how to use play X, Y, and Z, then people naturally will say, hey, have you met such and such? So at first I was like, I just thought I was just like, just whatever. And then I met a whole community of play folks. It started with this gentleman. His name is Kevin Carroll. He has an amazing TED Talk about a red rubber ball. He used to work for Nike, has like crazy upbringing. And for him, like play was that savior and whatnot. And great speaker. And then I met another good friend of mine. His name is Jeff Harry. And then I just a whole community of play people. And it was just all, oh, what, you like to play? And then we just started like literally like forming this tribe. And you're right, we all do play in our own unique way. But it was like, yeah, we got to rise up. And you would be surprised. Some people, like my friend Kirsten Anderson, she uses Legos as a way to activate people's imagination and help them be more innovative. And my friend Amy Angelilli, she uses improv like how I do it. And then so you will be surprised. There's a gentleman, he is called Primal Play, and he is, to be honest, he's a big hit in the people that are into keto, because they're all about like, let me be a caveman. Yeah. And then he uses playful things instead of like going to the gym. It's like, let's do bear crawls, and we're doing like these like sort of like things that you would do in recess, and then believe it or not, you're burning calories. You're not thinking about going to the gym. And he has an amazing talk on it is why working out is not working out.
That's a fact. What were some of those in that very first improv class when you went back to work the next day? What were some of the, like, let's say like 2 or 3 key things that just changed the way you saw it? Like you said that it's the same clients, same company, same office, but something switched. What was it that, like, was it a new perspective on how to deal with client problems, or was it a new perspective on how to interact with employees or your subordinates, whatever, collaborators? Like, what were those, like, initial, like, oh shit, this is, like, I'm seeing this totally differently?
Yeah. So before I learned what I learned about, like, the science and the neuroscience, which I'll tell you in a minute, the biggest thing was I was, like, not stressed. I went into the office. Again, everything was the same. There were still the same deliverables, and the clients were still being the clients, but I was just coming from a place of sort of zen. And because of that, I was just more able to just access creativity. And so what I learned as I started studying, like, the neuroscience and whatnot, most of us, the reason why we're burnt out is that we're revving at, like, on the RPM scale, like 8 or 9, we're at red line, and we're producing adrenaline and cortisol, and our bodies aren't meant to do that on a consistent basis. It's meant to just do it to fight stress, done, and then go back to, like, chill. So go from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic. That's the rest and digest. However, because our stressors in this day and age don't go away. Emails are still there. To-do lists are still a mile long. There are people screaming at us, and our brains are processing it as if we have a saber-toothed tiger on our back, except constantly. And so no wonder why we're always on edge. And what I did was I stepped away from that. I talk about it in the book. There's different types of rest. And what I essentially did was called a meso rest, where you step away from the work and do something that brings you joy, whether it's a hobby, whatever it is. And then you're still going to make those connections. And so it allows your body to sort of recalibrate. And so that's what happened. I was flooded with dopamine and dopamine and endorphins and all those neurochemicals that, like, help you activate the creativity centers of your brain. Yeah. And so I went in and I was able to see things differently because I wasn't in that lizard brain mode.
Sure. Here's a follow-up question to the dopamine. Is there anything, like, maybe this is part of the course or something, but like a dopamine reset? Because we're inundated with social media, all the pings, all the dings, all the bright lights. Is there anything that you do on top of, like, this dopamine rush of play to, like, level back out? Because we are, as stressful as we are still getting a constant dopamine drip in IV form via cell phone. So is there anything you recommend for, like, doing a reset, or, like, trying to balance those stressors?
Yeah. So one is awareness. You bring up a good point that we have a constant drip of dopamine because we have these devices that are mega computers in our pocket that can give us information like that. Most people don't realize what it's doing. So fun experiment that I wish everyone knew about, because then they would see the fact that they're checking social media or email differently. So researchers did this experiment with bonobos, the monkeys. Their favorite beverage is blackberry juice. And so they strapped them in this, like, sort of computer thing, and they taught them to do this sequence. And when they did it right, they got pure blackberry juice right in their mouth. They're like, so good. And it conditioned them to, like, do it again. Ooh, more blackberry juice. Again, that's the dopamine hit. So then they were curious. All right, if they get it right and we don't give like 100%, like we sort of dilute it with water or something, would they give up? Yeah. Guess what? No, they worked harder because it would be random when they would get the pure blackberry juice. And so then at one point they took the straps off. Yeah. All their other monkey friends are going out to play. They're still doing it. And then, like, they'll get diluted. oh, I got the hit, I got the good one. Yeah. And so that is what we're doing when we're checking email, when we're scrolling through social. We're looking for that thing that is unconscious. We don't like, where's that email? Like that email from the one or whatever, like, and all the
digital dragon.
Yeah, and it's just never showing up. Like it's Sasquatch or whatever. Like it's going to show up, but it's never there. It's usually spam. It's like, and then we don't realize that it has a hold on us. So that awareness is key, of realizing what's happening. And then we need to sort of replace it, because you can't just, yes, there are such things as digital detox. Matter of fact, a friend of mine, he's in Canada, just did, I think it was called Camp Reset. And it was a weekend where it was play-based, but cell phones were taken away, like all of those digital, like sort of things that would weigh on us, gone for the weekend. And then it was all about community. It was all about like connection and stuff like that. And people like came back like, whoa, like, and then sort of like they walk back into the real world like, oh, what's going on? So that is important to have that detox. But it's one of those things where if you don't replace it with something else, you could easily go back to it. And so that's where I invite people to do what is called a play history. When you were younger, what did you do like for fun and enjoyment? And when I say play, this is where most people they think, oh, it's sports or this and the other. Yeah, that's one form of play. Play is anything that you do just for the sake of it, where you could do it for hours. It stimulates you personally. And so again, this is a very personal experience. And, you're getting enough sort of feedback and challenge and stuff like that. And then you're getting into that flow state. Figure out what that is for you. And then instead of like when you're, having some downtime, instead of like jumping on social media, how about you do that? It could be crocheting, it could be building with Legos. I was working with someone and it was during the pandemic, and her form of play used to be travel. That was nixed. And so, after doing play history, she realized that she used to take care of dolls. She loved collecting dolls. And she told me, Gary, I'm not going to go buy some Barbies. I was like, no. That's not what I'm telling you. Let's break that down. What's the essence of what you were doing? And she was like, well, I was collecting and I was nurturing. I was like, all right, what else could you collect and nurture? And then she ended up successments.
Plant lady.
And
she
became the plant lady. She became, and so again, that's not for everyone. That's not everyone's jam.
Yeah.
But for her, she has over I think 200 succulents.
Wow.
And she is propagating them, and she's like a mad scientist when it comes to that. And to her, that is where she's spending her excess time on, instead of being on social media where she's being like sort of inundated with messages like she's not enough and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And again, she's learning something. She's learning something. She's creating something. She's having community. She's bringing and gifting things. And so, hopefully that answered your question.
Totally.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, the question was like, is there a dopamine kind of reset that you follow up, with or whatever? But to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about the God, I lost my train of thought. The creator consumer switch.
Yeah.
When you are stuck on your phone, you're not making, you are just consuming.
Yes.
And it's that like, give me more, versus the creator. It's a whole different mentality.
Completely.
And there's this like autonomous like superpower that you feel when you first take like a thing. I've experienced it when you take a thing from an idea to on paper to then development, and then now it's like it exists and people buy it or wear it or whatever. It's like, holy shit, I am fucking God, dude. I just made this thing, dude, and it exists. And it's like that, it just it's like this snowball effect. Mm-hmm. And you're just like making more. And yeah, you're playing and creating versus just like sitting and consuming.
Yeah.
First thing I thought about was making forts with the trees and branches and going out behind the house and spending hours building a fort just in case, the bad guys came.
It's play. Yeah, and so and I've had people like that say, well, Gary, I don't, that's childish. I don't want to build a fort. It's like, all right, well, what does that mean to you? And how can you replace that? And maybe it's not a fort, but go get some, 2x4s and stuff. Like, we're adults now. So, like, when we were kids, like, we had to be super scrappy. Like, now you can go to Home Depot.
Get some 2x4s.
Right? Go get, like...
coffee table.
Right? Build a coffee table. Like, exactly. Go get some blueprints, like, off of the internet and, like, build something. And, again, like, yes, it would be great, like, if you want to sell it. But to some people, like, just do it and, like, that satisfaction. So, in Europe, actually... they're having doctors that are prescribing things like this instead of medication.
Wow.
Man.
Because, again, you get this feeling of satisfaction of completing something like that. And, again, you don't have to go sell it. But, like, look, like, it reminds me of Ron Swanson, like, on Parks and Rec, where he, like, look at this chair that I built. Like, and he's like, yeah. Like, and it's just, like, something he did with his hands, and it was, like, his jam.
Very empowering.
Yeah, very empowering.
What do you say if people, I would just watch TV. If someone were to say, if you were to ask the, the play history exercise, if someone said, just watch TV.
Okay, so I would like to take it to the next level. All right, what do you watch on TV? Because one of the play personalities is the storyteller, and it's like to get lost in it. And so I have a friend who's a movie file, and so what she would do is, like, she went through a phase where she was looking up, like, old films that were in a specific genre. And she would go and watch them, and she would, like, sort of analyze them. So it's something where it's like, yes, you can go watch this, but, like, how can you be more involved than just, like, almost like a zombie? So,
letting
like, if you're into, like, movies, go watch them. But after you're done, like, start to think about and analyze them, like, and get, like, involved, and maybe go look up who's the director of this. And so it's more than just a consumption of it.
You could even write a list of your favorite movies.
Right? Yeah.
That would be an exercise. It's creative, and then we'll put them into genres now.
Yeah.
Your sci-fi, or your horror, or your comedy, or your what have you.
Yeah, or go read the book version, then go watch the movie, and then start to, like, have an intellectual discussion with your friends about it.
Yeah.
I just asked the question about TV as a devil's advocate because I feel like a lot of people kind of default to, I want to rest, and I'm just going to go and sit in front of the boob tube for a couple hours. Where there some benefits, sure, and some positive things out of that, but it's not that engaging, playful experience that is connecting to the positive feelings and the feelings of some kind of accomplishment or making or creating, or something that's going to give you a little bit better feeling out of it.
Yeah. So to that point, it's all about intentionality. Jane McGonigal, she wrote this amazing book called Super Better, and it was about how games and playfulness can actually help you overcome so many things like PTSD and disease and things like that, and how you can create, like, an alter ego, and it's an amazing book. And she was saying that there is, what's the difference between using play as a superpower and using play to your detriment? And there's just one thing. So there's lots of research that shows that, like, play can ruin your life and all this other stuff. Like, the people that are stuck in their basement playing World of Warcraft for, like, hours on end, and then they can't, like, leave and socialize and stuff like that. And then the people who actually use a game like Candy Crush to overcome, PTSD, like, from being in the military. Again, it's play, but yet they had two different outcomes. And the one thing is, what is your intention? If your intention is like, you know what, I'm going to engage in this for a period of time because it's going to help me do X. Cool, you will reap the benefits. Or it's like, I can't deal with life, so I'm going to engage in this just to, like, completely escape. And then again, you don't want to deal with it, so then you just do this. So then it becomes your pattern. You know what? I can't deal with this, so I'm just going to escape to this. And yeah, that's where maybe the binge watching and stuff like that comes from. But guess what? That can happen to anything. You know what? I can't deal with life right now, so I'm just going to go exercise. And you still don't deal with life, and then that becomes your sort of pattern. And so or maybe it's eating, or maybe it's actually what most adults do, working. I can't deal with, like, life as an adult, so I'm going to overwork myself and yada yada yada. So play, yes, when you have the right intention, you can reap the benefits. And so, like, yes, ideally, if it's something where you're engaging with other people, that really helps. Yeah, there's, like, a fine line with, like, sort of engaging in sort of TV. That's why one of the things that I like to do is be intentional about it. I turned off the auto load, like, on Netflix and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I actually have to, like, am I going to watch another episode? This is my choice. Actually, no. I think I'm good. Cool. All right. Let me step in. Let me do something else.
So the intention, escape versus what?
Well, escape versus like just being intentional about like what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yes,
That
there
makes
is
sense.
a plain time and space for escapism. However, escapism can easily lead to like sort of like addictive behavior, and it doesn't have to be play. It can be with anything.
Yep, that totally makes sense.
Did you have something on the?
I was not specifically. I was going to ask how you been able to. So obviously, the book came a little bit later, but you had started up the business. You've started on the speaking circuit and doing some corporate coaching and things like that. How did that develop from the idea into? And that, I'm assuming the book is kind of basically the culmination or up to this point.
Yeah, it's all the wisdom. So, like I said earlier, my intention was to use all this knowledge to lead teams. I thought it was going to be my mission to like create, be in the digital marketing, realm and agency life. And I found myself, co-founding an agency. I think you remember that. And I was doing this on the side. It was like my little side hustle. It was just a hobby, something I did for fun. And I didn't have to think about like, how much am I charging for this? And there was this one point when I was in Nicaragua, I was leading a retreat, and it was the last day of the retreat. We were at the beach. I'm looking at the sunset. There was these little tortoises or turtles going to the ocean, and then I like see like the little trails, and I'm like, I turned to my co-facilitator, Amy, and I'm like, I think I figured it out. Like I have something that can afford me the ability to do something that brings me a lot of joy. And I'm feeling this sense of harmony. I felt it so much so that I got a tattoo.
A turtle?
No, harmony.
Oh.
And so, and then I go back, and then I check in with my business partner, and that Monday he broke up with me. He basically said, I think we should go our separate ways. Here's your buyout check. I'm taking the business and I'm going over here. And then get this, 2 hours later, I kid you not, our landlord, he calls me and he said, sorry, I'm going to have to sell your house that I've been renting to you for like the last 5 years. And again, Larry, he was our landlord. Like, when he told me this circumstance, I'm like, yeah, you need to sell the house. He gave us like 45 days to get our things in order. My wife wasn't working. My son was about to be 1. And I'm like, ooh, what do I do? And I could have just gotten another gig. Like I'm pretty sure, could have, went to a few places like, hey, look. But that's where I said, maybe this is not my path that I thought. Maybe it is this facilitation. Maybe it's using play as a vehicle for change and transformation. And when I got the support from my wife, where she was like, yeah, I think you should do that. Then we sold everything. Put stuff into storage. We moved in with my parents, and then I was like, all right, I got to figure this out. And so that was like the start. Granted, like, yes, I've been working on this for a bit, but this was like me like saying, this is what I'm going to do. And that was 5 years ago.
It's not until you lose everything that you're really free to do anything. Tyler Durden.
Tyler Durden. Shout out to Fight Club. How do you... talked a little bit about burnout and like how you got so burned out in the digital marketing space and agency life. How, being that this is a new-ish avenue for you, how do you see you managing burnout when it's your own thing? Because there's the saying like, work a 9 to 5, you'll work 9 to 5, start your own business, you work 24/7.
Yes.
So how do you manage burnout? How do you kind of compartmentalize like work-life balance? I hate that phrase. I think there's seasons. I think there's, sometimes you just got to work hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is no work. So I think that work-life balance is a bit of a farce, but how would you say, how would you instruct somebody to manage burnout when they're running their own thing and you spinning your wheels is as far as you're going to go. So you have to continue to go. But like,
you need frameworks, because most people who jump into their own thing, they probably came from working a 9 to 5 and they were on that framework. And so again, that is like the muscle memory where you feel like, oh, my productivity is tied or like my self-worth is tied to my productivity. And it's a slippery slope. And then you hear things like, well, you know what, if you're doing what you love, then you never work a day in your life, right? However, your body will, tell you different. And that's one of the things that I quickly learned, because in the beginning it was fun. It was play, and it still is. And then like I easily got like so caught up in it. And then I realized like, oh wow, I'm not really sleeping as much as I used to. And then wow, I'm like self-consumed. And then it was like very embarrassing that I'm this guy that teaches people about play and uses play as a vehicle, and then I'm burnt out, and I'm burnt out on the thing that I should be doing. So anyways, so you need a framework. To answer your question, you need a framework. And this is one of the things where if you set up a framework where you can really be intentional, then, because burnout happens slowly over time, where you like at one point, like imagine you have like a gauge, that gauge doesn't refill back to 100% because you're starting to be burnt out. Like it refills only back to like 50%, and then if only to 25%, and then it's like one of those old school iPhones that by 11 is like dead already. And so that's why I talk a lot about rest in the book of having a system where everyone says, well, 8 hours. Yes, that's what the research says. But I can't tell you to get 8 hours of sleep if you're not even used to that. All I'm telling you is get decent sleep. So if you're only going to sleep for 4 hours, is it restful 4 hours? Or is it 4 hours where you just essentially, you're like my 5-year-old that like goes all the way, and then he like passes out on the couch. You're like, and then like, you have your iPhone in your hand, and you got this, that, and the other. And that's not going to be restful sleep. Sure. Because I can see people that, they have a process, and, they, don't have like certain stimulation before they go to bed, and then they can sleep 5 hours, and then it will be better than if you did all these other things and you try to sleep 8 hours. Like
so if I'm on my phone for the hour before bed,
right?
I sleep 8. It may not be as
restful
as someone 5, but it's like they're not, they're drinking water before bed, and they're reading a book, and
exactly. And so do what you can to have a process to get rest. The other thing is, again, the people that are working on their business all the time, guess what? As humans, we're bad at this. There's lots of research that shows that we're bad at knowing how much energy we have, because we will say, you know what, I think I can power through this. And then if you were to be honest, are you as effective as you were, had you like taken a break? And so one of the things that I have in my schedule is I have blocks of breaks. Like it is in my schedule. And so I get to this point, I'm like, I gotta take a break. Because if I don't, I know that I have a tendency to like, oh, I'm just work on this for a little bit longer. I'll just do this. And so I have certain things. And so in those break times, well, now I work from home, and I have a 5-year-old. Well, he's in school now, but like when he wasn't, it was like I step out of my office, he hears the doors like, and he's like, Dada? And like I hear the feet. Hey, Dada, are we gonna play? What are we gonna do? I'm like, I wanted to just chill. So anyways, but start to create rituals so that you can rejuvenate yourself. Because like someone, if you like add up all the time that they're working, it may just be like 8 hours spread over a day, a full day. But like, they, maybe they had like a 30-minute time period where they were just sort of out and about, just doing stuff. That's how my day usually is, because, we have a newborn and I have a 5-year-old. So like I'll have a period where I'm like, all right, this is my deep work period where I'm going to be working on these things. And then, all right, cool. I have a space where now like I'm going to do this other stuff. But if I don't have something to put in that container, I can easily find myself doing things that are not going to rejuvenate myself, like scrolling on social media, checking email, or obsessing about X, Y, and Z. So I have like, all right, cool. All right, yeah, I'm going to do these things. A lot of it is revolving around kids, but whatever. It's all good.
Well, who better to play
play with.
Oh yeah. My son, he knows what's up.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
He knows how to play.
Yeah.
And he's teaching me. And most adults, like that have kids, they come to me and like, why is it so hard to play with our kids? I was like, because they're jerks, and they only want to play a certain way. They're not.
It's called I win.
Yeah.
They play the game, any game you're playing.
Right? Just like in Big
the
Daddy,
game is
like,
I win.
I win. Yeah. Or it's like, it's mine's now.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. Cool. Fun.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Gary, we got to talk about the hair.
Yeah.
You've got beautiful. I gotta say that's at least 8 years of growth. Longer. Okay.
Well,
more.
Gotta
I've
be,
trimmed,
dude.
but yes. Keep going.
Tell us the hair story. Have you always had long hair? Is it a more recent? Well, it's not that recent, clearly. But for anyone who's just listening, I got to say it's a good 16 to 18 inches, your locks. Tell us a little bit about your hair story.
Yes. So I've been growing my hair. So I've had locks since 06. Okay. And I've been like, the funny thing is my intention on getting it was to like not do much with it, but I found that I have to do more like with my hair now than what I did prior. But in the beginning it was, so I've had locks since before like they were like super cool. Like, like now you can look and you can see, black guys everywhere like, oh yeah, locks, like, before like it was like a few, but like it's still the stigma behind it was like, you smoking weed? What's the deal? But for growing locks, the one thing I didn't know, and if I would have known this, I might not have went this route. But in the beginning, it's awkward. Like it looks weird, and it takes a while before it lies down. Like
You look like ODB.
right? Yeah, right. ODB, like
yeah.
you had like these like little twists. It looks like all over the place. And I remember after I got it done, well, the first like month or so, like it's fine, like because it's like new and stuff like that. But like month 3. It's starting to grow and it's starting to lay down, but it just looks awkward. And then I was again working at a place. I'm glad that they didn't like, well, what's up with your hair? They were cool with it. And then it was, I think it was like by month 5, it was finally like, all right, this is looking pretty good. And actually, my wife was like, perfect, because then we took engagement photos,
nice.
and it looked.
So at what length? We talk a lot about the awkward stage.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. At what length do you think you leave the awkward stage as a guy with locks?
For me, it was once it got past my ears.
Okay.
So it took a while.
That's a while.
Yeah, because it just is laying on top of each other, and it just like, what is it? But like once it's starting to get some length, and it like can interact independently, like then it's like, oh, all right, this is pretty good. All right.
And it takes longer because they're twisted.
Yeah, they're
right?
like the lady who does now my wife does it, but the lady when I first got started with it, she like uses a tool, so it almost looks like, if you remember back in the day, the topsy tail, like ladies would, because it's like it looks like a big needle, and so it's almost like she does that. Like, so there's so many different ways to do locks. Like you can do a palm roll, like where you get like some beeswax type stuff and you like sort of roll it, and those like sort of like the what they call like the nappy dreads, like that are a little bit more puffier. Sure. And then hers it's like it's like you're crocheting your hair. Yeah. But yeah, like even though it's like sort of neat and tidy for the most part, in the beginning it looked awkward. And then I was like, keep because
hang in there.
I was like, well, I want to do something different with my hair, and I saw a guy that had locks that like they look beautiful, and I was like, I got the courage to ask him, like, this might sound kind of weird, but who did your hair? I really love your hair. Yeah. And then he's like, well, can I get your number? I'm gonna ask her because she doesn't really take a lot of appointments. And if she's open to it, I'm like, yeah, that would be so great. And then her name was Rosina. And this is when I lived in LA. And then she, it took 6 hours to like get it done. And then she's like, there's a chance that it may not stick. Mm-hmm. They may just come undone. Mm-hmm. So just FYI. And she told me how to take care of it. And then it finally did it. So much so I moved to San Diego, and I would still go up to LA. Rosina's the only one who could do my hair. Yeah. And that wasn't even her full-time gig. She worked in insurance. She just did that on the weekends. And then I got so lucky. So she actually came. So me and my wife, we got married in LA and Malibu. She came to the site where I got married to do my hair to get me a little cleanup right
That's
before
awesome.
we got married. But living in San Diego, going up there every 6 weeks. Granted, we have friends and family up there, so I would just go up there early. She'll do my hair, then we'll go see friends and family. And then there was one time when my wife came with me, and then my wife was just curious. She's like, "Oh, how do you do it?" And Rosina's like, "Oh yeah, you do this." And so it was like she gave her a lesson. It was almost like the universe was like, "You need to learn," because Rosina sent a message out like maybe 3 months later, like, "Hey, I'm stopping," to all of her clients. Like, I'm going back to school.
My fingers are at the end of
right?
it.
Yeah, I can't do this
it anymore.
And so my wife remembered the lesson. I'm like, and then so she went and got the tool. She's like, "Let's just try it."
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. If not, whatever. And then I sent Rosina a few texts like, "Is she doing it right?" She's like, "Oh yeah, she's doing it." And so ever since then, my wife's been doing my hair.
That's awesome.
Which is great because she's the biggest person. Like, yeah, I think we need to do your hair.
Yeah. She's got to look at you every day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so she's like, "All right, cool. Let's make
And
it
if she
look
doesn't
good."
like it, you're like, well, you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said every 6 weeks. Is that about when guys with locks should be getting theirs either twisted or palm rolled every 6 weeks or so? We have virtually no content on locks, and so
it varies. So if you want to look so fresh and so clean, every 4 to 6 weeks you should get it tied up because that's when the new growth comes in.
And so they're weaving in new growth with the old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the new growth happened, and so like I can only speak to what I know with the tool. And so the new growth happens, and then they take the tool, and then it's like they intermix it in, and then it gets all tight.
Yeah.
You might be able to get away with going a little bit longer if you're doing like a palm roll. And then I know people that do palm roll, they're constantly like sort of twisting their hair and stuff like that.
But they're twisting up new locks.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
rather than weaving.
Well, it's the new one. Like they're just twisting it, trying to get it to lock where the new growth is.
Yeah.
Just to get it to like sort of.
Gotcha.
Just sort of lock within.
Bind in there.
So they would.
Bind.
So palm rolling, you would be creating a new lock from new growth versus
new growth. With the
weaved
tool
or twisted.
Yeah.
You're weaving it into existing locks.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then and so for me, because it is, it's mature, I can go a little bit longer, and sometimes I have, but it hurts like the dickens.
Does it?
Because so with locks, what most people don't realize, and I didn't realize this either, is that because you're not like brushing your hair or doing anything with your hair, your scalp gets super sensitive because it's not getting any friction at all.
Yeah.
And then when it gets done, oh my God. I'm like sitting there like
Driving home with tears running down your.
yeah, my wife's like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah. Pain is beauty. Let's keep going. We got this. But like it's super tender, super like, and then after I'm like, whoo.
Yeah.
Whoo.
We're gonna have to have you guys come back for a tutorial, man.
Right? Yeah. But I've so as far as my hair, I've cut it twice. So when Rosina asked me like what are my goals with it, I told her like the length that I wanted, and at the time I wanted shoulder length. And so get this, the math. So she did the math by how many locks do I need to have it at the length that I want it, because it pulls on itself.
Yeah.
And so like, if I wanted it to be longer, she would have done it slightly different so that they weren't, as like they were more or whatever. So because it gets heavy.
Sure.
And then, so at one point, like the longest I've gotten it was like probably about where it is. And then I cut it once, and then I got shoulder length. And then, so I cut it twice to shoulder length each time. And then now what, this length is pretty good. And I know, whatever, it's all good. But what my wife is starting to do with certain ones, she's looking like at the tension, because again, it's just tension because it's the gravity and it's pulling on itself.
It's pulling it down.
Yeah. And so she combines them. So she'll use the technique, and she's like, "Hey, I just merged two locks together, and then it gives it more,
a little more structural integrity at the scalp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not going to pull out.
Very cool.
But yeah, like all this stuff, like again, I didn't even know prior to that.
Yeah, and like for guys with straight hair, or guys who don't twist their hair or get braids or anything like that, like we're constantly brushing out dead hair, constantly, taking out all that old stuff that's either fallen out or is broken off, but you're carrying every single hair that's ever grown from your scalp.
Yeah.
In your locks.
Yeah, and so it doesn't release, and so because of that, as far as maintenance, not only do I get it sort of tightened it up frequently, but when I wash it, I have to have very specific shampoo, like which I make. Like sure. It was funny. So I used to buy there was a very specific lock shampoo, and it's not cheap. And then Rosina, my chick, she's like, look, this is what you do. You go get this, and this, and she told me, she like get the horse and mane shampoo and get some Dr. Bonner's, and then get a few essential oils. And then you put it together with some distilled water. Make sure it's distilled water. Okay. And then because you want something that's not going to have a lot of suds, because the suds will get stuck in the hair. And so you need it to be very sort of like clear and just sort of run through them like, wow, and stuff like that. So yeah, the maintenance is a lot.
No small bit to it.
Yeah.
Now the oils and things, you have some nice oils that you use. Do you do that just during your shampoo and conditioner routine, or do you use oils in between shampoo?
In the locks, no, but on the scalp, yes.
Okay.
You don't condition?
No.
Just wash?
Just wash.
Okay, and then some oils on the scalp?
Yeah, and then oil the scalp like throughout the week. It's more of a refreshing thing, so it's like a mix of distilled water and witch hazel.
Okay.
And then a little bit of oil, and then it keeps the scalp all nice and fresh.
Nice.
Just how you want it.
Yeah.
Rad.
What about long hair problems?
Well,
anything that is a
my
pain
first thing, I can't wear hats because I already have a big noggin.
Yes.
And then having as much hair, it adds. So I was in ROTC growing up, which is like the mini army, and I couldn't be like this in the ROTC. But in the ROTC, we had to wear hats, and my hat size, this is in high school, and it's been this way, it's 7 3/4. It's like the biggest hat you can make. And then adding on, this beautiful hair on top of it, it adds like so much more to like the size of my noggin. Yeah. And so like wearing hats is like, I used to love wearing hats. Now it's like beanies, but like that's hot.
Yeah. Yes.
And so like, so I'm wearing like, Huh?
You already have a beanie.
It's already. So like headbands and stuff like that. Like I've been, like someone said, what about visors? I'm like, not.
A big visor guy.
So all right, so I'm going to ask this question. You might have seen it. You might not. Have either of you seen House Party?
Yeah, Kid Play.
Right? Did you see the second House Party?
Saw previews, probably clips. Don't remember the start to finish.
So So Kid, the one that had the big high top fade,
yes.
He had a hat, but the top, it was a regular hat, but the top was cut
off.
So it's not a visor, but it's like a regular hat with the top cut off, and his locks came out the top like that. If someone could make those, I would let me know. But it's not a visor. Like everyone's like a visor. Like no, a visor is different. This is like
it is still a hat.
Looks like a new era hat,
right? With just like the top cut off.
Yeah.
So that the locks can come out.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
sold.
I've seen some hats. I think maybe Nike wears them. I've seen some. They're like athletic hats, and they have a slit from the top button down to the the clasp.
Yeah.
And you can pull, your ponytail through or whatever.
So.
Yeah. You need a little more of a slit.
You'll need a little more,
yeah.
You'll need a little more than just a little slit.
Yeah, but it was so dope, and I know that was probably custom made. Sure. But like ever since I've had locks, I've been like I'm like, where do I find these hats? Because I like wearing hats. So that's my problem. That's my main problem is I can't wear hats anymore.
That's a serious problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're on can you wear a snapback if you're on like the last?
So.
Which looks a little silly, right?
It looks so silly.
Yeah.
So it is like literally like the last one,
yeah.
if that, and then that sometimes pops out, and then it's just like I just have it on, just like
it's just sitting on top, not secured. All right,
not the hat wearing experience you're going for.
Yeah.
Noted.
Maybe
we can throw something on the R&D list.
Yeah, right. But you have the headbands, which they work.
We have the headbands, yes, and the head wraps.
So you got to try the head wraps. You got to try the hair ties for guys.
Yes.
And they were swiped from you, it sounded like.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old who anything dad has is like, oh, let me get in on that.
What's yours is mine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's all his, and then it becomes his, and then so I'm lucky. So the Jolly Roger is like the one that like I really like. Right now I'm wearing the Vegas ones. Am I? I don't know.
The high rollers, baby.
I think you were in the
Jolly Roger. Yes, I was wearing the high roller yesterday, and I'm lucky to have a few. Because like my son will have, and they're gone. Like literally, like I can look everywhere, and like he has secret hiding spots that I don't even know about. But then he will show up with them. Yeah. And I'm like, where'd you find that? I'm like, oh, I just found it. It was over there.
Likely story.
Give the people a turn so they can see what your how you're rocking the hair ties for guys with the Locs. Nice.
Man, that is awesome.
So a bit of a, what do we call
almost
that
like
style?
the Brave.
The Brave, yes. Yeah. Minus the braid.
The half up, the half down.
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. And you were able to get 2 wraps right there? Or?
Yeah, 2 wraps, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent. Dope. Glad they're working for you.
Yeah.
Is this
and your son?
Right. Should we even bring up the softies at this point?
Well, I did just give Gary a few. We have a new blend here that we're working with that has an additional stretch. It's a cotton elastic blend that provides a little bit more elasticity than our standard hair ties for guys. They could stretch out a little bit forward. You could get that either third in your case or a fourth turn if you have super thick hair, really curly hair, or some very dense locks. So you're going to give it a test run for us and let us know what you think about the softies.
Yeah.
By the time this show publishes, the softies may be available.
Hopefully.
Just have to get on our email list, and then you'll know.
Yeah, speaking of, go to the website, thelonghairs.us. Opt in and subscribe.
Yeah.
Every week we send out dope, original, fresh, long hair content. This is blog post number 446. Assuming we do get finished here and we are able to get this published, I'm pretty confident. We've done it 445 times so far, so we're going to keep it going. Subscribe to our email list. We'll send you the dope weekly freshness and little insider news like secret product releases, like the softies, for example. And Gary, we tell everyone that you don't need to be a hair expert, but there's a few guys that there's a few things.
Yeah, that part.
That every guy with long hair needs to know. That's why we offer our quick tips at thelonghairs.us. Just some basic facts and fundamentals for what to do with your flow.
Which I think Gary's visit here has inspired me to take another look and add some locks, braids, content for quick tips.
Absolutely.
We need more natural hair content. We need more lock content, braid content, all kinds of stuff. Hit us up. You got locks, braids. You want to run a tutorial. You got a awesome homemade shampoo formula. Share it with us. Comment below. Comment below your lock shampoo.
Love to hear it. Love to hear what you got. Gary, where would you like to see the business go? Do you have a vision, your ideal future state for the book, the business, the whole project, your whole personal brand that you've been building here very successfully? Where do you want to see this go?
I want play to be a thing that is just a given, because we are wired for play. It's in our DNA, and as adults we forget about it. I want to get to the point where I don't have to convince you that play is essential, that we just play. So that would be the ideal thing. And also, as far as the stuff that I do, because I bring improv training and sort of theatrical arts training, I want that to be as accessible to everyone, not just executives that have change. I want to be able to bring it to marginalized communities and help them reap the benefits just like how I did.
So who would be some great clients, whether organizations or companies? If someone's listening right now, who would be an ideal person to hire you for your services?
Basically, if they have a team that they want them to be more productive, or they want them to actually stay, and they're having a challenge with that, because I know, you've probably heard the term quiet quitting. Yeah. If you want to deal with that, hit me up.
Rad.
Where can we find you, both your business, and where can we find Playful Rebellion?
Yeah, so website, breakthroughplay.com. Link to where you can get the book. It's wherever books are sold. So it's on Amazon. It's on was it bookshop.org is so if you're not a Bezos fan, you can go to bookshop.org, where a portion of the proceeds do go to local bookshops.
Very cool.
Bought my last books from that website. I quite liked it. Breakthroughplay.com. Find the book on there or anywhere else. I'd love to have any of our followers and fans connect with you and get some serious playtime going.
Yeah.
It's been great having you, Gary.
Likewise. Thank you, gents.
Thanks so much for coming.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
coming down. And this is hit home for me a little bit. I'm going to be thinking more about playing and that rest and rejuvenation and what do we need to do to get ourselves back up to full speed.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well, we'd love to have you on again. Oh, there's one question I neglected to mention. Are you familiar with the Great Cut?
No, tell me more.
It's a question we ask our guests if they can commit to the Great Cut. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you.
Okay, it's all good.
It's a charity haircutting event.
Ooh.
We hosted in 2019. The Longhairs broke the Guinness World Records title for the most hair donated to charity in 24 hours. It was a phenomenal event. It was right here at the Port Pavilion on Broadway Pier in San Diego. Had a great crowd, all-day event. Guinness World's Book adjudicator was there measuring, and it all came down. We broke the record. So we are doing it again in 2024, and we tell everyone, no one's going to tell you to cut your hair, but we would love to have you come and join should you decide to donate. Our charity partner is Children with Hair Loss. They do accept Locs, and actually last time we did have several Locs donors.
All right.
But again, not going to ask you to make that commitment at this point, but we would love to have you there, and we'll share a little bit more about it between now and then. We got about a year and a half until the big event.
Yeah.
And if you guys are curious at home watching, head to thegreatcut.us. We've got recap videos, all the info you need for 2024, past photos. You'll get a good idea of what 2024 will look like, but it's going to be bigger and better and more hair, more whips, more music, more beers, more of everything.
It's a hair whipping, karate kicking, charity haircutting event.
That's right.
So you'll get the formal invite, Gary, but we hope you'll join us.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Go and check out Playful Rebellion. I've enjoyed perusing through it, but I'm going to take a little deeper dive having had you on the show here. Until next time, keep letting it ride. See.